What's going on, guys? So we're here out at the Trx compound. This is Trx Performance Powder Coating. This is Nate back here. This is a full custom powder coating shop. Nate does it all outside of powder coating. He does all sorts of builds. He does welding. He's built his complete powder coat shop from scratch. The building, the powder coat oven, everything. So we're gonna break down everything that goes on in this shop and show you some of the cool things that he's done. So over here, we just got a factory Kawasaki KLX 110. Those are always fun to have. But the real cool item is this custom Trx90. It actually has a two-stroke CR85 motor in it. And Nate's gonna basically break down this whole build because there's a lot of different aftermarket parts on this.
Yeah, so this started out as just a 94 stock Trx90 with a 4-stroke in it. 94, I believe, was like one of the first years for the Trx90, so it's a really old machine. I kind of got started in the powder coating just from racing quads back in 04 to 2010, somewhere in that area. Raced for many years. Kind of got into the powder coating thing while building my own stuff. This is just one of many that I've done. This is for my daughters, you know, just to ride around the house and on the track. Just something different with the CR85 engine in it. You know, this is what I like to build, and you know, every color combination is different. Every build is completely different. Not a lot of times do we do like a hybrid with a different engine in it, but for the most part, you know, the color combos are endless, and you know, it's always something new. But starting up front here, I'll just kind of run through this machine. The front end on the Trx90s, the front end comes stock with a single shock and a single A-arm with drum brakes. So that's probably the worst part about the Trx90. You really need to have disc brakes on it. So what we did here was, these are actually 300EX lower A-arms that all these mounts were completely made and repositioned and everything to accommodate the dual A-arm setup. Actually, the ball joints are aftermarket Legger style ball joints, so this A-arm here was modified to accept that ball joint. These upper control arms are actually off of an 87 250X, which is the early version of the 300EX back in 87. And the reason I went with those is it already has a removable ball joint. You can adjust the camber a little bit. Stock 300EX shocks, 300EX brakes, hubs. The wheels are DWT 4-1 offset, so it keeps that front end a lot skinnier. You have better, you know, side control and everything. If you can keep the center of gravity in, 4-1 offset wheels work really good. Stock steering stem, Renthal bars. Like I said, with the 300EX front brakes, you get the master cylinder. There's no more cables, so all that stuff goes away. And then coming over here to the power plant. This was out of a 96 CR85 big wheel. The motor was, it ran, it needed some work. The motor went over to Glick Racing, Austin Glick at Glick Racing, completely disassembled it, vapor honed everything so it looked brand new. We went ahead and did a 105 Super Mini kit. So it went from an 85cc to a 105. Jim Hickman did the head on it, because once you bore these two strokes, you've got to do the taper and everything, the matching head to the cylinder. So all that's done. I'm currently running a stock carburetor on it. Could probably get a little more out of it with like a flat side or something, but it's fast enough the way it is. The power's really good. The only thing is a lot of people, they don't mention that the two strokes, they have a vibration. Like you hit the power band on this thing and it vibrates the handlebars. I mean, it's just there's no counterbalancer in these dirt bike engines. If I had a way to do that, it wouldn't shake as much, or, you know, help a little bit. But that's kind of the downfall to it. It does have a ton of power. I think the stock Trx90 4-stroke put out about 6 to 7 horsepower. This and the bike puts out about 18, so it's probably safe to say probably 20 to 25 horsepower. Going back to the back, the stock swing arm also has a drum brake. Very small shock. So what I did on this swing arm is I shaved, it's a 300EX swing arm. All years 300EX are all the same. I shaved it down to get it to fit into the frame, relocated the spacers and bearings and everything. Going back here, you've got much longer shock. The upper shock mount was moved. That is the shock length that I ended up trying to find without ordering custom shocks. This is actually off of a DRR Pro 90. it's a 70 and 90, I believe, use the same shock. So that is actually a DRR shock. It goes back to a Lone Star 300EX axle. I have it actually skinnied up a little bit with the spacers. Gearing is kind of one of those things we played around with. It seems like it works. Obviously, to get like your chain alignment, I had to make spacers and shim everything over. It all works really good. Went with Mayer plastic, Rath Nerf bars, Rath front bumper. The exhaust is pretty much stock. We had to change a little bit on the expansion chamber up front, but for the most part, that is all really, really close to the bike. Obviously, this had to be cut out. The Kickstarter had to be extended out, and you kind of have to start it with your heel. But this is a cool build. People bring me frames and parts, you know, all the time, and it's always, what colors can we do? I like doing stuff for myself. I've probably built, I don't know, probably 20 different machines for myself and the kids. This next project that I'm getting ready to do is a 2006 Trx450r. It's going to be a big bore. The engine's going to go to Austin Glick. He's going to isotrophic finish all the gears in it. We're going to do a big bore. It's all going to be completely vapor honed. I mean, it's going to be a really cool build. But I'm kind of starting with the frame. I've already got everything tore apart. The bike sat for several years. I mean, it was literally starting to rust. I mean, it was pretty bad. These TRX 450 frames in cross country, they're really like if you clip a tree or something, you can actually bend the whole bottom portion of the frame over. And when I got this bike, I couldn't really tell. It had been sitting for a while. The tires were flat, and I couldn't tell when it was sitting, you know, if the frame was good. After I got it all tore apart, the frame was junk. I couldn't straighten it. It was no good. It was bent. So I searched and searched for a frame that hadn't been cracked, welded before, you know, powder coated before, pretty much just a bone stock 06 frame. And I found one. So we're going to start with the frame, and I'm going to kind of go through, not right now, but a little bit of, you know, the whole process with the powder coating, all done in-house, to the sandblasting. I'll probably touch on different videos of, you know, how to apply the powder, the prepping, the sandblasting, what types of powder, all the different colors, maybe even get into the outdoor blasting, which is a much larger setup, and then also like the chemical stripping. You know, a lot of these newer quads, like sitting there on the table, that's a YFZ 450R. Those frames are powder coated and they have to be chemically stripped. They're aluminum frames and you really can't sandblast them. So I'll kind of touch on all that later, but this TRX 450 frame, we are going to gusset the frame. I've been powder coating for about 20 years, you know, into the 400EXs, 300EXs way before the 450s came. And I started seeing a lot of like the 0405s frames coming in, and I would notice that, man, you know, these are cracked here, they're cracked there. You know, and really no one had any really solutions for it back then. It was, you know, you could make your own braces here and there on the frame, and you know, it'd last a little longer. And so I kind of just paid attention to where the quads broke, where these frames broke, because everyone would say, oh, but while you're powder coating, do you weld? Well, yeah, I weld. So go ahead and just fix that crack for me. So I kind of developed a gusset kit or a brace kit for the TRX frames just for that reason. Now, since then, there's a lot of different companies out there. They've got a lot of different pieces in there that you really don't need. It's just added stuff. It makes you feel like you're getting, you know, more for your money because, you know, it could break there. Yes, it could break there, but it doesn't, and it's very rare. So this gusset kit is like a 12-piece kit, and I'm going to show you where to weld on existing areas to brace it up, and also to install this kit. I used to sell this kit on eBay, and then just to, you know, local racers and everything. And I went ahead and made more. The TRX platform is kind of going away with the Yamahas coming in, so I really wasn't doing it anymore. But I do have some. I'm still going to sell them. We're going to just kind of go through what I do on the TRX frames to kind of fix all the areas. The first thing we want to do is when you've got a stock frame like this, you need to get the paint off. You can wire brush all the areas, but obviously we're in a powder coat shop. I sandblast everything or chemically strip everything. So we're going to take this frame, go to the sandblaster, and I'm not going to blast the whole entire thing. I'm just gonna do the areas that I have to weld. I wanna do it like that because once we're done welding, I can blast the entire frame and it kind of blasts over all the welds and kind of gives it an even profile all around. Gets all the weld scale off, anything that's left behind. So we're gonna start with blasting it, and like I said, I'm just gonna do the areas that I'm gonna weld in, and then we're gonna go over on the bench, get everything TIG welded in. I TIG weld everything. You can MIG weld it. Obviously the frame is MIG welded together, and you can MIG weld it. It's fine. It just looks a little nicer with the TIG welding. So I'm gonna go through everything on this. We'll get it blasted, get it back over here, and show you guys what, where these pieces go and how it all works. So we'll go over here to the blaster now. Okay, so we got the frame in there. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the dust collector on and get this thing blasted. So I'm just getting the areas that I'm welding. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing and get everything. I'm just gonna do where we're gonna weld. That should do it. This thing makes pretty quick work of that. This cabinet, it'll fit like I just did a Banshee frame a couple months ago, and those have the subframes that are all one piece, and it'll fit in here no problem. So this is a perfect size. I think it's like 4 foot deep and like 60 inches wide. So it's pretty good. There's a couple areas that I like to start with. Now this is the gusset kit. You've got 2 pieces here, and these pieces are actually going to go right in here. And what happens is Honda, this is a cast steel piece right here, and it actually has a little stub on it. Before they weld these, I took one apart. This is machined down and it slides into this tube. And on the early ones, on the 0405s, they only went in like a 1/2 inch, and they did make it better on the 06 and up. That stub that comes off there comes in a little bit farther. So this is better on the 06 here where these break, but we're still going to go ahead and gusset it. Now this is going to cover both this weld and this weld, and up here this is where the motor mount hooks on. So these are definitely a must. The other part of the kit, these go right up front here. So not only have I seen them break here, I've seen them break here, and I've also seen them break right here in front of this motor mount bracket. So you got basically these 2 pieces. The other part of the problem is there's some other companies out there that did these. Can't remember, I think Bear was one of them. A couple of them did the same style of a bracket. The only problem is you couldn't get your side case off. You couldn't get your right side whole case off because it would actually hit the gusset. They really made it too thick, and it come down here like this, and you had to pull the motor out or loosen your motor mounts just to work on the clutch side. So everything clears. The other part of the problem is, and a lot of you might have already seen this before, but these break right here, especially if the bike's cartwheeled or something like that. Cross country guys really do a lot more damage to these frames than motocross guys. If you're racing motocross and you have your shock set up right, these frames hold up fine. In fact, I think a lot of the pros on motocross don't even gusset anything because it's just not as hard on them. The GNCC racing and the cross country racing is really bad. So for this, these pieces are going to go in here just like this. And what that does is it boxes this in. This is already, Honda's way of doing it, but we're just doubling that up. We're gonna go ahead and box this in. Gives it more areas. Like normally they crack right here or crack right here. I've even seen this whole thing almost break off. So this pretty much takes care of that. Moving over here, this is your radiator mounts. For whatever reason, cross country guys again will break these off. There is no gusset here. All I do is come in on the back side and make my own little gusset with the welder. I just kind of fill a little bit of weld in there, and that seems to fix those. Really nothing up here is a problem. Now this piece is going to go right in here. And I don't understand this one as far as why they break in here, but these tubes right here where your brakes go, these will develop cracks around here. So this pretty much covers that. And sometimes I'll weld the top side, sometimes I just weld the bottom. If you're gonna MIG weld this, you can weld the bottom side only if you want. Moving back to the very bottom portion, on the 0405s, which this one doesn't count for that, there's two pieces. And these go in here,
And they changed these mounts a little bit in 06, but on the 05 frames, this fits perfect. And this is where a lot of the early Nerf bar mounts mount to. This is, the tube goes through here and then it bolts to there. And the motor mount would break right there. So that's what these are for. We're not going to use these on this frame. The rear subframe, and I did weld a couple in already, but this one right here, there's a short piece that goes underneath this mount, and it just basically goes under there. And this one's already got for your brake. It's already got a gusset. So this is a gusset for this side. Flipping the frame over, this is another big problem area. And like I said, these are already welded in. All of these break right here. They break right here. This pretty much covers all that. This also gives you a nice location to drill holes and mount your skid plate. You know, whether it's plastic or aluminum, it gives you a good spot to, you know, put a nut and bolt through there. So these are all TIG welded in. They lay right in there. And then all of these foot peg mount holes all need welded. I usually build these up with weld just to help with these. Also, this piece coming over here, I'll probably run a couple beads on each side of that. And then here's a closer look of that side piece there. Yeah, we're gonna, I think I usually start with these, then I do this. So these are done, and I only weld one side of these. And if you look over here, there's no reason to really weld the inside. It's just a much cleaner look if you leave it. Once it's powder coated, I mean, it looks like part of the frame. So we're gonna start with doing these pieces right here. So this is what I like to use. You can use a regular flapper wheel like this. You can, for a 4-inch grinder. But I think this just works a little bit better. And these are all out of 10 gauge. I went this thick because MIG welders don't really like the thinner material. So I just went ahead and made them out of this. So, you know, if guys want to MIG weld them in, they're not burning holes through it. This works really good. However, the laser leaves kind of a film on the edge, and you want to get that off. And this works really good. I usually do the edge that I'm welding on. And then I just kind of clean up the edges while I got it. And these are already really smooth, but that way it's, you know, everything's cleaned up. You know, when people are like, can you weld my frame? It broke before you powder coat it. I just kind of started looking at all these, you know, areas, and, you know, I'm like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so I kind of just basically took a kit, you know, cardboard, basically, kind of held it up to there, and slowly started working with a laser shop, and, you know, we come up with all these pieces and kind of fine-tuned them a little bit over the years. And we can go over and look at this Yamaha frame that I just got done with. This is actually chrome powder coat with a clear over it. And then this color here is Illusion Money, and you can kind of just see all the depth to it. And that's where, like, that blasting, you know, getting the profile right, that's where you get that smoothness. There's a lot of other factors to it, but it has to start with that. But we'll go over, we're going to do another video on, you know, applying it, everything. We're going to go start to finish on this TRX frame, even down to the color. We're kind of trying to decide on colors, and once we kind of figure the colors out, you know, we'll get a better idea of what products to use. And these are actually the shocks for that. I jumped the gun a little bit and had the shock guy tear these apart. All the reservoirs have been sitting on the shelf for a little bit, but these are Cerakoted Glacier Black. These are PEP shocks. These are kind of the original long travel PEP shocks when they used like Works Performance parts. So I wanted to go back. These were all sandblasted and stripped and repowder coated. I wanted to go back with the old school look of those colors. That's how they came from the factory. I'm going to end up putting shock covers on it, so those colors aren't going to clash with the rest of the bike.
So now that Nate's got the welding started, we got progress made, I'm itching to take this thing out and rip around on it. I have not rode it. I haven't really rode since I broke my hip. So, yeah, I don't think I can hurt myself. right, so the consensus is in. It's an animal. Shifting in Adidas NMD shoes is not ideal, but it's all I got right now. That kind of hurts. And I was shifting the Nerf bar, which is not the shifter. I tried to throw a little whip. I hit the tire. I still got it. But this thing rips. I would love to get this on a bigger track and just literally fly on this thing. So Nate, you did an excellent job on this.
So next we're gonna get that frame. Next episode we'll get that frame all blasted 100% and get it coated. We just got to come up with a color combination. I've done a lot of different colors. I mean, you can see there's all sorts of stuff. There's a new Arctic Cat snowmobile that came out that's got a kind of like this blue and almost like a pastel orange. And I'm just trying to do something different. I think I'm going to do like a matte finish instead of a high gloss. Stay tuned. We're going to come up with a color combination and go from there. Thanks.